Welcome to INOvators, a series where we sit down with thought leaders in the healthcare technology space to talk about news and trends impacting the industry today. My name is Justine Giancola. I'm on the corporate communications team at Inovalon, and joining me today is Kim Tedesco, the director of gene and cell operations at Walgreens. And today we're going to talk about gene and cell therapy, some of the challenges that patients face in this area, and how healthcare professionals can help them navigate. Thanks for being here today, Kim.
Oh, thank you so much, Justine. I'm super honored to be here and talk about gene and cell, everything that I live and breathe every single day.
Cool. Great. We're happy to have you. But before we get started, I just want to congratulate you on winning the Inovalon Impact Award for your work and innovation in this area. It is certainly impressive and certainly well-deserved.
Thank you so much to you and Inovalon for the recognition in this space. I think this is really going to be the future of healthcare. So to be a part of it at the ground effort is very exciting. So thank you.
Of course. And really excited to chat with you today. But before we get started, tell me a little bit about you and your role and what you do specifically.
Absolutely. So I am a pharmacist by training, have been a pharmacist for almost 30 years, which is pretty crazy to say. I got into gene and cell about a year and a half ago. And I remember thinking back at when I started my career in pharmacy, that them talking about genomics and gene and cell therapy, and it sounded so pie in the sky, kind of Star Wars like, and I never thought I really would be able to see it in my lifetime. So to be a part of it and from the ground level is truly, truly an honor and really a full circle moment. But I'm the director of gene and cell pharmacy operations at Walgreens. We have recently launched a center of excellence in Pittsburgh, dedicated to all things gene and cell related. And one of the things that I'm very, very passionate about is making sure that the entire healthcare ecosystem is educated on gene and cell because it is so new. So there's a lot of folks that are, in the trenches of healthcare that aren't aware of what's available. And so I love to come and talk to folks about, these new and upcoming therapies and what's coming down the pipeline that will potentially change healthcare as we know it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even this is a great platform to get some of that information out to the market. So today, let's get started with the first question. What are some of the common challenges that patients can face when seeking gene and cell therapy?
Absolutely. I think it really starts with even being identified as a patient that may be a candidate for gene or cell therapy. There's very few treatment centers, hospitals, prescribers, providers that are versed in these therapies. So having it be known as an option is probably the first barrier. So once they become it's educated around the option of being a candidate for gene and cell therapy, there's other challenges they're going to face. Things like I talked about the very few treatment centers that may do it. They may have to uproot their entire family and move to a treatment center for months at a time. So you can imagine that there's so many stressors involved with that in terms of housing insecurity or food insecurity or transportation, and then income. How are they might not be working anymore. So how do they pay for everyday stuff? So I think that that's a big one. These products contain a very high price tag, so $1 to $5 million for potentially a single treatment. So being able to navigate that payer space and all of the benefits investigation that needs to happen is really something that can challenge them and may prohibit a candidate from receiving the therapy. I actually read a statistic that only about 10% of people that are eligible for gene or cell therapy are actually receiving them because of these barriers.
So certainly some pretty important challenges that can arise. Now, let's assume you get past that piece and are able to get the treatment. What about during and after that treatment? What happens next for patients who are able to get a successful treatment?
Right. And I think, making sure that these patients understand what they're signing up for, it could be a 15-year follow-up for these patients. So, it could be monthly at first and then quarterly, every 6 months, every year as time progresses, that they're going to need to see this treatment plan to see, are those outcomes being maintained over a long period of time? I think another thing that maybe hasn't been on the radar up to this point that's very crucial in this space is the psychological well-being of the patient. You think of a patient that may receive a curative therapy for a life debilitating disease, that, it would be, roses and unicorns, but there are some challenges. Things like entering a workforce. If it was something that somebody wasn't able to work their entire life, how do they navigate that? How do they navigate entering into a workforce where they don't have experience? Potentially buying a house or, a big event like that. So the psychological well-being, I think, is something that's very, very important in this space, to be mindful of the entire care team, making sure that, that patient is doing well from a psychological standpoint as well.
Absolutely. Is there anything that healthcare professionals can be doing right now and even moving forward that can help patients navigate some of these challenges?
Absolutely. I think, we talk about social determinants of health in the healthcare ecosystem, and being able to identify if somebody does have, a psychological need or a transportation need. But I think it's super important in this space is that you're going to have to find ways to close the loop, right? So not only identifying what those issues are, but also solving them. So I think this is a space that really commands a lot of collaboration between all stakeholders. So, does the payer have programs that may help with this? Is there a social worker involved at the health system or a caseworker that might help them navigate? All of those things, I think, pharmacy is poised very well to have that collaborative nature, to make sure that the patient not only is identified in terms of needs, but also that need is solved as well.
Yeah. So let's say all that successful support comes together, and what does that mean then for the patient and really for the healthcare ecosystem as a whole?
Right. I think when we talk about these, I think you've got to think about all of those things that, we mentioned before, to make sure that that patient has holistic care from beginning to end. So really being able to be in tune with that patient, being able to identify issues, solve for issues, all of those things are going to potentially determine what the outcome of that therapy is. Because if somebody has a need to get a lab test, but they don't have transportation to get there, how will we know how they're doing? So I think it's going to be very, very important that, again, we all have that collaborative nature across the ecosystem to longitudinally manage that patient from beginning to end.
Absolutely. And I think that this whole story really focuses on patients and people, but speaking directly to those outcomes, that is so important. That's why we're all doing what we're doing in healthcare today. So what you're doing it's such important work and is so impactful to the healthcare space as a whole.
We're just super honored to be a part of it. Like I said, I think pharmacy is very rooted in patient care. So I think that we are poised very well to be at the center point of collaboration between all of the different stakeholders across the ecosystem, so that the patient can have the best outcome possible.
Absolutely. Well, Kim, thank you so much for sitting down with us today. And again, congratulations on winning that very well-deserved award and sharing your insight today.
Thank you so much for your time and for the award. Super excited to be a part of it. Thank you.
Of course. And of course, thank you to our audience for watching today. Be sure to check out our next episode of INOvators coming out soon.